Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today I'm sharing a pool noodle Cupid Gnome with a cute kick-back leg. If you'd like to make it, just boop, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, I have been asked for these for a long time, but never liked how light they were. So I'm going to show you how I'm weighting them and also how to make the fun details like the wings and the feet and everything. I also will show you how I have the bendable and movable arms without ripping through the center of this guy. So I have a lot of people ask me for my drawings because I draw all of these guys. There you go, quick little view. I started out by cutting a Dollar Tree pool noodle at 4 inches, and then I'm going to be using, you can use anything wood or solid. I'm using a dowel, but you can also use a pencil and a wooden Christmas ornament that already is pre-drilled with a hole. And the reason is because the dowels fit right in. Bam! And I did get those wood ornaments from Michael's, but they have them at every craft store. My first step in making sure the pool noodle gnome is solid is to masking tape an X on the bottom, making sure that I can fill it without issue. And this is actually going to end up being the top. So I'm just going to wrap a little bit of secure masking tape around the outside and then move on to designing the legs. So for the first leg, I'm going to use the dowel. The second one's going to be 14 gauge wire you can get at Home Depot or other big box supply stores. And we're going to end up using a Dollar Tree large foam roller for both of the legs. I cut 7 inches of dowel and I'm going to sharpen one end in my electric sharpener so I can pop it up into the body. So ensure that it's flat because you do need a solid seal when we're done here. And then I'm just going to go right back of center and I'm going to pop that all the way up so it has 3 inches open between the wood ornament and the body, because I can cut this this foam roller in half and get 3 inches for both. All right, so I'm just gonna pop that right on. I end up piercing right through there, oops, but we're gonna cover it so it doesn't matter anyway. Just make sure that you do have the part at the bottom going through the pool or going through the wood ornament is all wood. All right, so for the second leg, I'm going to use that 14 gauge wire and I'm actually going to bend one end so it doesn't poke anybody, and I'm going to slide on my foam cut and add an additional 2.5 to 3 inches of the wire so that I can put that up and it's solid in the body. And all I'm going to do is pop that up and just make sure that both of them align so they're the same height before moving on. And I do recommend popping that out before you do your little kick leg to make sure you like where your bend is, but that way you don't rip through the pool noodle. All right, so you can see this is what mine's going to look like. Just kind of center the body over the wood ornament, because here's where we're going to weight it. Do not glue down the rocks in the top couple of inches. And the reason is because we're going to go through that in a little bit for our arms. At the bottom couple of inches, wow, I'm really good at getting all of those in there. At the bottom couple inches out, I'm going to use a layer of hot glue, a layer of rocks, layer of hot glue and rocks all the way to make it flush to the bottom of this pool noodle, because that way I can just secure the bottom, and I'll even shake this for you so you can see how much or how little the sound is. I've gotten a little better since this, but I'm just adding the masking tape the same way and then securing this. Listen. See? It barely moves and shakes and jostles. So that's what I was going for. All right, so I'm just going to make my little secure wrap around the entire part at the bottom, and then we can move on to actually building our gnome. For the body, I'm using this like cream colored fleece. I had it in my stash, and I'm just cutting about the 4 inches there and just gluing it onto the body all the way around. So my hot glue gun will melt the foam, so it's really good that I have that masking tape, just because it A, helps hide that the glue, and then B, it makes sure I have a solid hold. Excuse me. For the seam in the back, I didn't want to overlap, so I put a lot of hot glue right along that edge, pressed in the one side, and before it set all the way, I just flipped it back and cut it off really closely to the body with some very sharp scissors. And then I'm going to pull apart that seam and press the 2 edges into each other. There you go. And this is what it looks like. Just helps to make it a little less bumpy in the back. For the legs, I did the exact same thing. I just cut 3 inches of the fleece and then wrapped it around. For my standing leg, I wanted a knee, so I just added a little bit of hot glue and then some polyfill and shaped that into a little ball. If you have a pom-pom in the same color fleece that you're using, you could use that as well. Wad up some scraps, whatever you've got. Or you can not have a knee, you know? This is yours. You do what you want. But I made a knee. And then I just ended up gluing the entire fleece around the foam roller here. And then I did the seam the exact same way. And you can hide the seam in the center because, again, none of our legs are glued down. So if you want to just turn the seams to the center, you can do that as well. But do make sure that you make sure the bottom is trimmed because we need a solid join right here. So you can see mine fits in perfectly. For the back leg, I just undid the wire, straightened it out a bit, and did the same exact thing. I had no knee on this one because I'm going to add the bend. Pop the wire back in, and then put it back in. Now for the feet, I'm going to make a template, and I made a kidney bean. And I made a kidney bean and then added like where the toes would be just in this shape. And you'll see I'm going to add a seam allowance, 1/4, because I'm going to be making the foot smaller. So I want to end with the final size without the seam allowance. So just add 1/8 of an inch all the way around your template. One of the feet, you're going to make 2 of those. So you put right sides together, trace 2. And one of the feet, you're just going to make 1 whole foot and a 1/2 foot. So I'm just going to add these 2 together. Again, right sides are both facing out. I'm going to add as little glue as I can possibly add. And then I'm going to squeeze the glue out towards the edges. And that's going to allow me to press in the 2 edges of fleece. So if you work with fleece, you know that it's got a pretty thick cut. And if you don't press the 2 edges together, it's just going to look, well, like you got 2 edges of uncut fleece, right? Or of cut fleece. So once I had the front down, I just added a little bit of polyfill in, stuffed it in, and then added this, or did the same technique on the back just by pressing the glue out. And you can see right there, I'm just going to wipe it away. And if it comes out, I end up just cutting it off. Right? So, because it's dry and you can cut it off with scissors. But I'm just going to add the glue, press them together, and just point the 2 edges into each other, making it as small as I can get it. Making that, seam as small as I can get it. All right, so you can see there's a little bit of glue right there. I'm just going to cut it off. All right, so finishing up this one. And then here's that whole foot and here's the 1/2 foot. So you're just going to end up putting that join part on the bottom. So starting with the 1/2 foot, I am going to take sewing thread and I'm going to make a knot, come in from the bottom and just make a toe. The easiest toe ever is just looping the thread over the top. Okay, so I'm starting about 1/4 of an inch down from the top, maybe just a little larger, and then I'm just looping it over a couple of times so that when I pull it a little bit, it makes a toe shape. I shared how to do this on the Scandinavian Sweeties Easter Bunny, but this method works and I just totally messed up my threads right there. So I did go over it 2 times, but you can go 3 times depending on how much you want to show. And then I'm going to move it just a little bit over, and I do the same exact process up through, over, up through, over. And that way I have 3 toes. You can make 4 toes, you can make 5 toes, you can make 8 toes. This is just for inspiration. Look, I got a knot. Oh, I'm so good at hand sewing. So my point is, if I can do this, you can do this. I am not good with the thread. All right, so after I get that looped over a couple of times, I'm just going to make sure that I knot it on the bottom where I started. And you're going to do that with the other foot as well. Now on the other foot, I chose to put the knot on the top of the foot because I wanted the bottom of the foot, the part that's kicked out, to be nice and seamless with no knots. And there you go. You can see there we have a couple of toes. See? All right. So how it's going to work is this one's going to go over here. We're going to cut a hole in it, but not yet. So I'm going to repeat the toe situation on the other side with this. And again, I'm starting on the top of the foot so I can hide that knot there. I am going to skip this. It's literally the same thing we just did. There we go. Now I have 2 little feet. Hello, feet. Oh, well, that one's upside down. All right, so now for the attachment, I'm just going to glue this on, making sure that I do get glue on the fleece for a more secure attachment. Ready? Biggity bam. And for the other one, I'm going to figure out where it needs to be, and then I'm going to glue down the very back and that top front piece. And then I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to cut a little X into the fabric so that I can just press my wooden dowel right through that hole. Just making sure it's secure, cutting out a little hole, and then just pressing it through. Oh, that napkin over there, I cut myself pretty bad with that X-Acto knife, so you'll see me change my manicure and come back to this about a week later. But it's flush, and I'm going to show you what it looks like up close. All right, and that is not, the fleece at the ankle is not glued down or anything yet. All right, and so we got a little bendy leg here, again, not glued down. A week later, you can see I just left this all on my desk. On the arms, I'm going to use my wire and the medium-sized rollers. I'm going to use a grapevine heart, some felt, and a dowel for my arrow. For the little skirt, I'm using a pink Mickey fleece. That's it. I'm going to make a sash out of that too. And then for the wings, I'm using these pre-made, it's like a really fuzzy pipe cleaner from the kids section. For hands, I'm using foam balls, a belly button foam balls. And speaking of foam balls, this is a 2-inch foam ball. I'm going to pop it right on top of the pool noodle. Boop! Doesn't need to be perfect. We're not going to see it. For the hands, I'm using the larger of those gold foam balls, but for the belly button, I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to string together some embroidery thread and make a big knot like that. I'm going to make sure we have 2 tails so that we can put both strings of the tails through that foam. And that way our little knot shows up at the very top. I'll glue it down. And then I'm just going to tie it underneath so that it stays forever and ever. But I'm not going to put it on yet because I want to make the little skirt that I'm making. I cut 2.5 inches high by the entire width plus some of my body, and then I'm just going to attach that partially because I think now's the best time to attach our legs just so that we don't have to work around the skirt. So I'm going to pop out both of my legs here and here. I'm going to add glue to the wood dowel up here, and then I'm going to flip it over, add glue into the wire hole that we made, press that up, and then I'm also going to glue where the fabric and foam meet the body, right? So that leg is now forever in place. And then you can also, at this point, glue your leg into the wood or do that later. All right, so here I'm just going to attach this all the way around. In the back, I left a little tiny bit open at the bottom. And then I'm going to make a sash. And I'm just using the same exact fabric. Remember, I cut it a little long, so I'm just going to use that same exact fabric at the longer length and then not even tie it. I just sort of loop it through once, and now I'm going to glue down the 2 strings into place so it looks like a tie. All right. Next up, I'm going to add this cute little belly button, and I'm just going to put it right over the top of the skirt and sash. For my little arrow, I just cut 2 felt hearts and put a piece of a dowel in between them, and then I cut 2 chevron shapes for the back. And this is like just under 6 inches. I wanted it to be pretty big. You can do whatever you want. For the arms, I'm going to use these medium-sized foam rollers from the Dollar Tree. But you see how I'm taking the wire and wiggling it all the way through all of those rocks, the pipe, the pool noodle, and everything. That is what we want because those rocks are going to help it not tear through everything. We're also going to put a fabric section so we don't have any tearing. So mine ended up being about 4.5 inches long. You know, you're going to measure it for whatever you want, but I did end up like looping over the ends of the wire just to make sure it didn't poke out or anything. All right, so once I have that, I'm actually going to cut, instead of 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches because I need fabric on both ends of my arms that is unglued. So I'm going to leave a little bit at the top, leave a little bit at the bottom, and I'll show you why that matters. We're just going to wrap it the same exact way we did everything else. Just cover them up. You can add elbows if you want. I was not feeling that creative. So I'm going to put the seam facing down, and then I'm going to take the edge and put the end all the way up. You see how the fabric overlaps? That's what we want. And the other end, I'm just going to add the gold ball and then put hot glue to secure that all in place at the end. And do the same for the other arm, again, leaving the 1/2 inches on either end. Now, this is just me testing colors, but I wanted to show you, I am going to be coloring the fur in a way I never have and don't recommend, but I'm showing you what I'm doing, right? So for my wings, you can use my free wing pattern templates if you want, but I just took this pipe cleaner I had in my stash. I made 2 loops with a split in the center, so it has like an inch in the center that is straight. Then I added an inch hanging off the back and cut all the fluff off of it so that I can twist it around and then stick it directly into the pool noodle. So to do that, I just popped in that seam. I just used a piece of wire, pop a hole, and then press this in. And now I'm going to secure both the inside of the hole and just along right here with hot glue. And let that set before I shape the wings. To shape the wings, I just squished my 2 loops together up and then pointed them down like little tiny baby wings. I should not be allowed to do this for a living. Okay, so for the top, I'm cutting a round in fur. Now, it doesn't have to fit your entire top here. Mine was about 2.5 to 3 inches. I just used a circle. But what I wanted to do was have a wild hair look at the top. Because you can see this edge, I'm going to do the beard a little bit differently. For the beard, I measured mine's about 8 inches. I ended up cutting a little bit off. I'm going to make it 1.5 inches high. I only want an inch drop, but I'm going to fold over the very top so it's all nice and seamless and you don't see any fabric backing, because we want to cover up the fabric backing we can see on our little circle piece. So this is what it looks like when it's ready. But before I put it on, I am going to glue down the arms to the body in this part, like just that fabric extra bit on both sides. So the actual foam is not glued to the body. Next up, I'm going to line this up to the very top of my fleece, and then I'm going to glue it right to the body. Again, you can see it's over where we glued the circular piece of felt, and it is also going over the joins in the fabric on the arms. And this allows us to have nice bendable arms, no ripping at all. Okay, so this is how I colored this. I highly don't recommend it. It took me forever, but I just colored the tips with this very light color alcohol ink marker all the way around. Do that before you put on the fur, because this was the longest part of this project. All right, for the nose, I split the fur to its fabric backing and added one of those foam gold balls from the Dollar Tree to match the hands and the belly button. And then I'm going to use a gold ribbon sort of thing that I got. It's wired, but it has these little gold leaves that I thought were really cute. And I ended up putting little sprigs of little beads on what looks like fishing wire. I got that at Hobby Lobby. I glued on the heart to act as my bow, and then I glued on the arrow on the top of the arm on the underside, and he was done. You can see here, he's got a lot of detail. I love the little foot, but what do you think? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you for being here. As always, please like and subscribe for more crafty fun.